This is not to do with the 95% of Sharia, which its apologists say is not to do with hand chopping. The issue of Sharia, which I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you're dealing with Sharia in this case, it is dictated in the Quran, in the second book of the Quran, that women are worth half that of men. Now, if you want to have a parallel legal system in this country, which throws out the rights accomplishments of this country, runs roughshod over them, and decides that women are worth half of you, then I resent the fact that you're trying to speak for anyone, let alone Christians.
Have you actually read the lecture, and did you see
Absolutely, I read the lecture and I found out what I could from it, and I listened to the interview he gave, in which, might I add, in his interview, he said that it was wrong that everyone should be treated under the same rule of law in this country. He said that there were problems from that. I don't think there are problems from that. I think that's one of the best accomplishments we've got, that everyone is equal before the law. And the head of your church is saying that it should be different?
You're about to see Douglas Murray confront the heated Muslim scholar Tariq Ramadan with brutal facts concerning the impact of religion, particularly Islam, in Western Europe. He focuses on an issue that has been an underlying, unspoken problem in the West. Douglas voices it for all of us, eventually leaving the Muslim panelists speechless.
Look, no, I don't think that you will find, Muslim organizations and Muslim leaders asking for something which has to do with Sharia law. But what we have to do first is really to define what we are talking about. I really think, having, followed the whole discussion around the Archbishop of Canterbury, that what we are saying now, what he said, is unfair. He was not at all, and he knows exactly what he is speaking about when he is referring to Sharia law. He's not talking about, cutting hands, and this is not what he's talking about. He was talking mainly about family laws within the British system. Yes. And I think that now we are just saying things about him which are not fair. So I want to start with this, because knowing his discourse, I really think that all this controversy is not at all in tune with his spirit and the way he's looking at things.
A Muslim girl born in this country would, because she was born to a Muslim family, be treated in her courts, in Sharia courts in this country, as being worth half the worth of testifying of her non-Muslim neighbour. That is what would happen. We would be ghettoizing people into implying that if you're born a Muslim, you will be run by Muslim law. If you're born a non-Muslim, you'll be run in the normal way that everyone else in the country is. The Archbishop, it's extraordinary we've got to this stage, but the Archbishop, in promoting Sharia law, apart from the fact he should resign, has made life incredibly difficult for progressive Muslims in this country who want to object to Sharia, and he's made it vastly easier for the extremists to see there's something they can get if they hold on long enough.
Douglas pinpoints Tariq's claim by choosing the right example and expressing how much Sharia laws can impact everyone's life, particularly women. The testimony of women given less weight compared to men in legal proceedings is a literal Sharia law, which certainly contradicts the facts stated by Tariq Ramadan.
This is not to do with the 95% of Sharia, which its apologists say is not to do with hand chopping. The issue of Sharia, which I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you're dealing with Sharia in this case, it is dictated in the Quran, in the second book of the Quran, that women are worth half that of men. Now, if you want to have a parallel legal system in this country, which throws out the rights accomplishments of this country, runs roughshod over them, and decides that women are worth half of you, then I resent the fact that you're trying to speak for anyone, let alone Christians.
Have you actually read the lecture, and did you see
Absolutely, I read the lecture and I found out what I could from it, and I listened to the interview he gave, in which, might I add, in his interview, he said that it was wrong that everyone should be treated under the same rule of law in this country. He said that there were problems from that. I don't think there are problems from that. I think that's one of the best accomplishments we've got, that everyone is equal before the law. And the head of your church is saying that it should be different?
Look, first, the Muslims and the Muslim organizations are not asking for a parallel system. They are law-abiding, and there is room for us to remain Muslims and fully Muslims within the legal British system, and there is no problem. Within this system,
can I just ask you on a question of fact? Apostasy, denying the faith, is punishable by death under Sharia law, isn't it?
No, look, once again, you are
Is that true or not?
Following in
is
the
it true or not?
Can I answer? Because you are asking question, and when Murray is talking, you let him talk, and when I am talking, you don't let me finish.
Well, then I suggest you answer the question, please.
I'm answering the question, telling you that you are following in the footsteps of Mr. Murray, coming with a perception of Sharia that it's monolithic and there is no room for interpretations. Your understanding of apostasy is not the only Islamic answer, and I and others, the Mufti of Egypt recently said, you know, that you can change your religion and you are not going to be killed. So don't come with something which is a simplistic definition of Sharia and do what Murray is doing, which is using this controversy to nurture an Islamophobic discourse.
Right.
The people around us. This is exactly what you are doing, Mr.
Do you think
Murray.
it's Islamophobic to point out that we think that women should be treated equally to men?
Let me finish. Let me finish. The people should understand, and our fellow citizens should understand, that the Muslims are not asking for a parallel system, and there are many interpretations relating to Sharia, and it's much more open than that, and don't come with something which is a superficial discourse. I'm sorry to say,
Suhaib Hassan was on the television
last
Sunday night.
Tariq Ramadan presents yet another contradiction regarding the diverse interpretations of Sharia laws concerning apostasy. Moreover, he asserts that communities are resistant to westernized rules or parallel systems within Islam. He says that people adhere superficially to Sharia discourse, overlooking its true intent. Douglas does not hold back.
Sharia Courts of Britain was on the televisions across this country on Channel 4 saying that he would like in the end for people to be flogged, beheaded, hands chopped off, all that stuff. We know that's where it leads, Mr. Ramadan. We know where it leads.
You are just using the controversy to spread fears in the British society.
There is a good reason to be fearful of Sharia, Mr. Ramadan.
Let's just take this back. Before we argue about interpretations of Sharia, and this is one of the many problems, as even you acknowledge, Mr. Ramadan, there are so many interpretations. The key to this is a belief somehow that hundreds of years of removing religion from the legal process of this country should somehow be reversed. And that's a thing that's very hard for a lot of people to take.
Nobody is asking this. You know, the great majority of the Muslims are saying something else. When, for example, in the British law, there is justice for everything, for everyone, equality before law. This is our Sharia. We don't have a problem with this. When you are telling me, and I'm telling you, I'm respecting the British law, because within the British law, there is equality before law. This is our Sharia. So don't come with a nurture this perception that we have a closed system which is against the British system. This is simply not true for the great majority of the Muslims living in Britain and in Europe. This is not true. This is what people like Murray are using to build walls between the people and nurturing a rejection of Muslims.
It is the case, is it not, that there are all sorts of exemptions that people are entitled to on the profession of religious belief. For example, doctors being required to perform abortions can object on religious grounds. There are all sorts of religious institutions, quasi-religious courts in this country. The Jews have them, for example. Why shouldn't the Muslims?
We should clear up this for a start, which the Archbishop of Canterbury has also got wrong, which is that Jewish courts in this country are first of all informal and secondly voluntary. They do not have any rights that supersede or stand equal to British law. The Sharia notion is that it stands not only equal but superior to British law. The Jews have just been thrown out by the Archbishop of Canterbury
nobody is asking this.
as something which is sacrificed to the rest of it. This is a totally different thing. If you want to throw Islamophobia around for Mr. Ramadan, let's talk about the anti-Semitism of the notion that you say, people give the Sharia to
hang on, guys. Just both of you, hold on a second or two.
Tariq Ramadan accuses Douglas Murray of spreading misinterpretations about Islam, attributing this to its negative perception in British society. Douglas, however, forcefully counters these accusations on live TV, presenting what he considers to be the true facts. Do you think Douglas Murray was right about apostasy and Sharia laws? What are your opinions on this? Let us know in the comments.